Were there times when you really thought this was it?
There was a month between that X-ray story I just said on driving on the highway and between when I had the doctor come in and say, this is what kind of cancer you have. And there were basically 4 different possibilities when they just knew about the location of the tumor, and all other possibilities besides the one it ended up being were worse and were likely life-threatening, or, some several months to several year prognosis. And so I sat with that. I was really, that month from that call on the highway was a really special time. It was like just embracing life and feeling fully alive and feeling really close to the people in my life. My Zen teacher has an expression he uses a lot. It's like a koan he gives many students, that is, not knowing is nearest. And I think that really applies, because just I don't know. And when you don't know, you're like actually close to something, but that's like some truth of the way the world is, or reality. Because really, we actually don't know anything any of the time, as much as we pretend or try otherwise. Yeah.
So today I'm really, really excited. I'm joined by an old friend of mine, a fascinating man with a fascinating journey of transformation and a shitload of skills to go with it. His name is Keith McGuinnes. Keith, so good to see you again, buddy, after all these years.
You too, Greg. Yeah, thanks for having me.
And I'm going to read from my phone a second, Keith's bio, because it's impressive. And also, he has a lot of skill sets that are quite unique. So Keith is an expert in human connection, sexuality, relationships, all the juicy stuff, and health. And he's widely recognized for his authentic and passionate leadership style. His passions have led him on a global quest to integrate his background, initially in business and technology, with ancient Eastern wisdom and mystical traditions. I first met Keith in a yoga school in Thailand many years ago. With over 15 years of experience dedicated to the practice and study of Zen Buddhism, Tantra, classical yoga, and sacred sexuality, Keith has become an expert in balancing wisdom, presence, and service while fully embracing the pleasures and joys of daily life. He has impacted thousands of students worldwide through teaching meditation and yoga, facilitating workshops, and his one-to-one coaching, focusing on communication, healthy masculinity, polarity, tantra, and holistic healing. Keith facilitates programs for realnessproject.org that foster and empower human connection for incarcerated individuals. He's based in Boulder, Colorado, and he's the founder of Awaken Intimacy Coaching and co-founder of the Open Institute. That was a mouthful. Let's get into the juice, straight into the juice. Keith, so wonderful to see you.
Yeah.
It's been 13 years since we were on a yoga teacher training program together in Mexico. 13 years.
13 years.
What are you checking in with?
I'm delighted to be here and to see you and to reminisce a little bit about that time and that unique moment in our paths crossing, and then also to see and talk about our journey since.
Yeah. Me too, buddy. It's really good to see you.
Yeah.
So I'm all about transformation. We met 13 years ago in a yoga school in Mexico. It was a 3-month teacher training program. We kind of connected because we had this drive. We were so driven to reach enlightenment, whatever that meant. We were so driven to meditate for long hours, and we were obsessed with transformation, actually. Keith, in 2019, you started a real transformation.
Yeah.
So Keith was diagnosed with cancer in 2019, and I watched his journey from afar. And At times it was a dark one, and I wondered if you'd get through it. But having breakfast with Keith today and asking him about it, he said, I'm really pleased it happened. I'm so grateful that I actually journeyed through cancer because of what I learned about life and what it means to be a man. Keith, talk to me about the seed of that. When you got a cough, talk to me about from the time you realized you were coughing.
Yeah, thank you. And it's interesting that you bring this up because I'm suddenly having a memory of a man I met that same time that you and I met in Mexico, who had come to the yoga school, and he'd had a stroke, and his whole face one side of his face was severely disfigured. Yeah. And I remember talking to him and him just saying, this is the best thing that ever happened to me in my life, because I was on a one-way path to death and destruction and overwork. And at the time I didn't quite understand it. I was like, wow, like you're happy that this severe injury and thing happened to you. And then, not too long afterward, I went through my own process. And so 2019, I was just had turned 40 years old. And in many ways, I was healthier, fitter, more active than I'd ever been in my entire life. I'd lived the last decade in these yogic communities, being a vegetarian and really focusing on evolution of health and mind and body. And developed a little nagging cough. Like I want to be like, as I was talking to you, I'd cough and doctors thought it was asthma or acid reflux. And of course, nothing really worked. And eventually was referred in for an x-ray. And I was driving home on the highway. I'll never forget this, just on the road from here on a mid-morning winter day. And the phone rings and it's the doctor. And we all know the doctor never calls you right after an appointment. And he shares, hey, just want to let you know we found something in the x-ray. It's a pretty big mass. And, we're going to need you to come back for more tests. And it's a very quick conversation. I hung up the phone. And I remember very distinctly, it was almost a moment of enlightenment, I would say, because I was driving down the highway, empty road. And I don't know what I was thinking about before that phone call, but I was not thinking about any of it afterward. It was suddenly like everything came into focus. Like, oh, I could be on the last months of my life here. Like things could be very different from here. And so then I started the long process of diagnosis and treatment and these kind of things. So I don't know how much detail you want me to go into. But
well, I'd like to go into the journey a bit more detail, also into your learnings along the way. What was interesting for me having breakfast with you earlier, Keith, was that we spoke about your journey through chemotherapy. And initially when you mentioned the word chemotherapy, I thought, wow, I wouldn't have thought you'd go through chemo because you've done so much in the world of holistic health and well-being and energetics and conserving energy and so on. I thought you'd be a guy that wouldn't go through chemotherapy, but you researched it a lot, didn't you? Do you want to talk about why you chose chemo and what that was like?
Yeah, this is, thank you for remembering that. The yoga communities that you and I met in, the teachers were often quite against a lot of like Western treatments. And I remember chemotherapy having a particularly bad reputation of like a Western thing to make money and, basically just send people to their deaths. And so I remember when I first going through the diagnostic process, I was like, wow, I'm going to really have to lean back on my fasting and alternate ways of healing that you are aware of. And it was in that time that I discovered that chemotherapy actually has a really high success rate in blood cancers. And I had a stage 3 lymphoma, a kind of very unique subset of it, and had a very high 5-year survival rate. And so the decision process I went through is also based on a very close friend of mine having a very similar cancer. And she went for like 2 years, the holistic path, and then ended up doing the chemotherapy anyway. And I remember her advice was like, just take it on the chin and then like put all your energy into healing afterward. And that resonated with me. It was like, okay, this is going to be the hardest thing and the most punishing thing I've ever done to my system. I will survive it. And then on the other side, I'm going to have to work double time. And so against many years of previous orientation to things like chemotherapy and Western treatments, I decided to go through a really, probably one of the most potent, powerful detoxifying chemotherapy treatments you can do for 6 months. And then started picking up the pieces after that. Like I did a scan at the end of that, and I've been essentially cancer free ever since.
Wow.
4 years ago.
I remember seeing some of you started writing, didn't you? Because I remember seeing some of your writing on Facebook, and it was I did follow it, and it was very, I don't know, it was very enlightening. At the same time, it was dark, and I thought, wow, is he going to see it through? Talk to me about the darkness in those times, Keith.
Yeah, thank you. It's interesting. Once you having cancer, you end up in a club that you don't really want to be a part of. It's a very unique club, and only people who have had cancer are in. And you start to understand what it's like to have life-threatening diagnoses and things like this. And different people have different orientations. I know some people who don't tell anyone. Yeah. And they wear a wig and they really keep it to themselves for various reasons. And I knew for me that my life, even before then, was already, there was something about living by example that I realized is a part of my journey, part of my path.
An openness.
An openness and a sharing. And so I knew from day one I needed to write about it and really share what I was going through. Ironically, it was at the same time the pandemic started in 2020. So it's felt even more important to for myself to not feel isolated, and also for many people really close to me, I think, struggled more with my potential mortality than I did.
Right.
There was actually one of the big gifts right in the beginning was, oh, how wonderful. I'll get to know when I'm going to die. So I'll have time to prepare and say goodbye and do the things that I might need to do. Versus even to this day, I don't love the idea of a sudden death in an accident or things like that. And so that was a big realization. And I've always found that finding ways to express my internal world to others so it's digestible and understandable. It's a little bit of the mindset of the teacher, I would say, is also just really helpful for me. I get even more clear in my own system about what's happening and how I'm feeling and what I want to share. Yeah. Were
there times when you really thought this was it? Talk to me about those times.
There was a month between that X-ray story I just said on driving on the highway and between when I had the doctor come in and say, this is what kind of cancer you have. And there were basically 4 different possibilities when they just knew about the location of the tumor, and all other possibilities besides the one it ended up being were worse and were likely life-threatening or, some several months to several year prognosis. And so I sat with that. I was really, that month from that call on the highway was a really special time. It was just embracing life and feeling fully alive and feeling really close to the people in my life. My Zen teacher has an expression he uses a lot. It's like a koan he gives many students that is, not knowing is nearest. And I think that really applies because I don't know. And when you don't know, you're actually close to something, but that's some truth of the way the world is or reality. Because really, we actually don't know anything any of the time, as much as we pretend or try otherwise. Yeah.
What were the physical symptoms of chemo for you? I know that you lost your hair, didn't you?
What's that?
You lost a lot of your hair, didn't you?
Yeah. So that it's amazing. They tell you, your hair's going to fall out on day 19.
Wow.
And because they've seen so many people through these cycles. Good fortune of being somewhat healthy and strong going in and learning a lot of ways to protect my body, such I would fast for 48 hours before receiving the chemo. Yeah. So fortunately the main things for me were just utter exhaustion. Right. This is just kind of a little anecdote, but part of the chemotherapy treatment is they give you massive doses of prednisone, it's a steroid. And in that process, I would have like erections, like unbelievable erections
Really?
for long periods, like without any arousal. And then you're on all these drugs, so you can't sleep, and you're just like, this is awful. I'm like isolated in my room. So that was a kind of a humorous side effect. It's really like a cumulative thing. That's the part like.
But you know how to move the energy, right?
What I would try. Yeah, do my breathing practices and so on and so forth.
So it was you had a rock on and you couldn't move it.
Couldn't move it, and it was a pandemic, so I couldn't see anyone. And because I had a bag actually at a port here, as a little scar, and so it was a week. I'd do a week on, 2 weeks off, and I literally had a backpack with like a bag of orange pink fluid, and every 15 seconds it would pump some into me.
Okay.
And so I couldn't actually even touch other people because my skin would be putting off some of it. So it was very like isolating in that time on top of the pandemic. But then for me, it was mostly just cumulative. It just like the basic thing was with chemo is like kill the cancer without killing the person. Yeah. But you get pretty close to killing the person. And so by month 5, like it was, I'd lost a ton of weight. I was really exhausted. All my hair had fallen out. Emotionally, I was beat up. Yeah,
I remember seeing some pictures. It's like, oh, wow.
Yeah, the score, like it's interesting. The head hair falls out first, and then the facial hair slowly, and then eventually the eyebrows and eyelashes go, and you really look like a bald little squirrel or cat or something. Yeah. So occasionally those things will pop up. Facebook memory from 4 years ago, and I'm like, wow, who was that guy?
Mm-hmm. It sounds like, from what I know about you, everything's a journey. It sounds like you really embraced the journey.
Yeah, I took it as there was a moment of WTF. Yeah, like I am a fit, healthy, like yoga practitioner, teacher. I'm vegetarian. Don't smoke. Don't do drugs. Like what? Why? Yeah, And then there was a shift in the orientation to, like everything I've been doing for the last decade has actually been preparing me to meet this. And I started to see it as I have a path of a healer in my own system and what I give to others. Yeah. And my astrological readings and things that I was doing at the time were like, it's the path of the wounded healer. Like you need to pass certain tests and milestones yourself before you can really, really help others. And
so you saw... I'm glad you touched on that because I was in my mind going to eventually ask you how your 10 years of intense yogic and spiritual practice in a Zen monastery had helped you for that. But you've kind of answered my question that you perceived it as the next stage of your evolution. Can you talk a bit more about how, and feel free to talk about some of the practices that you've done. It's important the audience refer to that. Like how did that 10-year intense journey of self-discovery prepare you for the ultimate test? Yeah,
I love that. I love this question. I think the primary answer is Zen. My main practice has been a Zen Buddhist practitioner. I'm ordained in Zen and have lived in monasteries and have done many retreats. And at some level, Zen is a death practice. It's like teaching us to die in like every second and every action, such that the ultimate final death, so to speak, of the body is not all that different. And so I think having those years of sitting on a cushion, staring at a wall and contemplating my mortality and existence and all of that. Yeah. It made like, it was clear to me, like when I received the diagnosis, I was like very clear in my system, like this isn't going to be what kills me. And so in addition to the death practice, I think something that a teaching in the school that we met at is the power of the mind and recognizing where you put your attention affects your life. And I know you're like a motivational coach and things like you obviously know this. And there's stories of people who were like given a cancer diagnosis of like 3 weeks to live by accident because their files were mixed up and they die.
Of course, because they catastrophize, the brain releases the emotions of stress in overload, and boom.
Yep, and they create that effect in their body, the psychosomatic.
So it sounds like you didn't catastrophize. You really put things into perspective.
I saw it as a test, like the biggest test of my life, and I also saw it as an opportunity. This comes around to what you said initially of like, there's something really important for me to live here.
So you potentialized it. Almost. You saw the potential in it. Let's go into that in terms of in terms of you before your cancer diagnosis,
Yeah.
and you now after the cancer diagnosis. What did you learn? What were you able to let go of? What potential revealed itself? What was new?
Yeah. Thank you. One thing I think I'd hoped for when I first started the healing process was that I was going to be given a silver platter with, here's the reason you had cancer. And with time, I realized it was much more subtle than that. And looking back now with some hindsight, I can talk about it. But I think the main thing that I received in this was the capacity of humility and the capacity to open my heart and to like let love in. And this, I think, as we're both men's coaches and we know like so many men, this is just a big blockage. In our yoga school, we would talk about the heart having an external and an internal tool. And a lot of men can give and we can provide and we can do stability, create stability for others. And, but like letting it in is really hard.
Yeah.
And so for the first time in my life at 40 years old, this didn't happen to me, but I was looking at potentially like not being able to get out of bed as a reasonable outcome of the treatment I was in, and it was a pandemic. I needed people to bring me groceries and food, and I needed doctors to nurses to support me. And this was I remember at some point in that journey, I'll probably get emotional when I talk about this because I'd go to the cancer treatment center every Monday through Friday that 1 week. And I would have to stay all day on Friday and often be the last person in that room with a few nurses. And I'd always like listen to some like Om Namah Shivaya kind of things at the end of the day. The sun would be going down and I would be, there was a pain of like, as my heart was opening and I was allowing that care to come in, chemo nurses are typically very good at taking care of people. It's a special job because many of those people are on their way to death. And just realizing like there was a lot of regret and pain around the last 20, 30 years of like all the people who have loved me so deeply and that I wasn't able to actually let that in. And so I could harp on that and feel a lot of regret, or I could say, well, great. I'm 40 years old. I now learn to receive and let people in and have people know me. And so my orientation as far as like transformation is now most people in my life see me and feel me very differently. There's like I think people would describe a kind of tenderness and vulnerability and humility
Beautiful.
that I definitely didn't have before 40. It was like that young and invincible lone wolf.
Of course.
I can do it all. Nothing's going to get me. I don't need anybody.
I don't need to receive.
Yep. I can do it all myself.
What a beautiful metaphor for any man. You're X, Y, and Z, and you've got things in the world, and you're slaying dragons, but can you let love in?
Yeah.
I see it on some of the events that I've done over the years. I mean, simple examples, you'd go out for a hike with a group of men and there'd be a high wall and you'd offer your hand to a guy coming behind you and, okay, dude, I don't need your hand. And it's just an example of how we're wired to be invincible. And what's also interesting for me, Keith, is because I look at giving and receiving as it's a seesaw, isn't it? That needs to be balanced.
Yep.
And there's so many men believe that they are good guys because of how much they give.
Yeah.
I'm a nice guy because I give and I sacrifice and I give money to charity and I'm there for my kids and I never have a day off. But they can't receive.
Yeah, or their wife, they're 20 years into a marriage and their wife like walks up to them one day and says, I don't know who you are. I can't feel you. I'm leaving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost as if we've been brainwashed to think that receiving is weak.
Yeah.
What a shame.
Yeah.
And from a spiritual standpoint, and we can go there on this conversation, you and I have experienced, maybe you more than me because of what you've been through, there's such a divine, infinite, loving intelligence that is the background of everything in existence. And we've just got to receive.
Yeah.
We've just got to be open to receive it.
Yeah.
But many men aren't.
Yeah.
Many men aren't.
Well, that's just take that to use the spiritual metaphor as, as men's coach, like we both talk about polarity and masculine, feminine, and the masculine tends to go toward the feminine receives.
Yeah.
And in some ways, I think it's not a coincidence that today when you go to any yoga studio or spiritual community, it's 2/3, 75% women, because there's already an inclination to receive.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
in terms of polarity with the divine or God, we're all feminine, right?
Yeah.
So we're all like receiving that divine grace and that love. And as men, if we're too focused on the external moving out polarity, it often inhibits us from receiving the down polarity.
And it inhibits us from the juice of existence. I meet so many men, and I've been there myself.
Yeah.
Control everything in my life.
Yeah.
From the time I open my eyes to the time I go to bed. Everything is controlled, processed, systemized, goal, target. I'll do that at 6, I'll do that at 7, that at 9. And men can make a lot of money doing that because that's how you make money, through process. But there's this never-ending treadmill that never leads to a felt sense of life is sacred, life is spiritual, life is juicy. Because the juice lies in the non-linear, the juice lies in the spontaneity, in the stopping, in the receiving. And that's been my experience. The more I receive, the more I... Don't get me wrong, my masculine's strong, but the more I stay open to the still, open, spontaneous, no planning aspect of life, like just sat here right now. It's just, this is heaven on earth. But we don't access heaven on earth through the relentless masculine pursuit. There has to be balance, right?
Yeah. Yeah. What comes to mind is something I often share with men is if some men might be hearing this and think, oh, if I start to open up my more feminine side, my more receptive side, I'm going to like decrease my masculinity in some ways. It's almost like it's a finite amount. And if you have more reception, you're going to have less emission, so to speak. But for me, they're both endless wells.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's like I continue to cultivate my masculinity and the assertiveness and the control, like the doing side of me, which feels amazing. And I work on this other side too. And it's really like tantric teachings. It's like a really refined human being is someone who is deeply alive on both sides and tends to, as male-bodied people, we tend to skew a little bit more. Our masculine is a bit more go to our bit of our external, the kind of women that we're attracted to and things like this. And for, my relationship with partners and women in relationships, like, honestly, Craig, like the gift of a woman's love, like, this is one of the great gifts of living. Yeah. And I think sadly, a lot of men, and I was that man before 40, let's say, that had so many women love me deeply, and I wasn't really, from this vantage point, not able to fully take that in. Yeah. And it's a great pain to them to loves anything that can't take it, to like receive it in fully. Yeah. And so I'm learning this now to like allow that, and small things during that cancer journey. Like I remember even going to those first appointments where they're going to tell me the news, and like people I had a friend offer to go with me, and I was like, no, I'm fine.
Yeah.
And then, that one was like that was the first step in my process. And then I called her back and said, no, I'd actually love for you to drive me. Thank you. And I started to watch that wall crumble a little bit in a really healthy way.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I like where this conversation is going.
Yeah.
I also like what you said about, this masculine energy that we have and this feminine energy, that they are endless wells. I've never heard anybody say that before. Yeah. They are endless wells. Yeah. We can work on our masculine, we can work on our feminine, we could be in a boardroom creating systems and processes, heading to a North Star, and we can be receptive to the beauty of nature and the sunshine and the rain and the spontaneity and non-linear ways of thinking and feeling and being able to the emotional domain that we can't control. And there is endless wells. It's certainly my experience that like if you, like I can really call on the commander and the linear thinker and really exercise that. But I have learned to access the inner woman, the inner girlfriend, call it what you want. I remember, it must have been about 14 years ago, Keith. I remember, it could have been in Thailand actually, in the Gama where we met. I remember we did an Osho dynamic meditation. I can't remember where it was, but I actually, and for the audience, an Osho dynamic meditation, Osho was a teacher from India, and he created a lot of meditations that were dynamic in nature because he believed that the people in the West, they couldn't sit still, so they needed an access, a doorway into stillness through dynamism. And one of his meditations is the Osho dynamic, and it involves a lot of catharsis and screaming and shouting and jumping and erratic breathing and at the end, non-linear kind of ways of moving and flowing. And my nervous system went into freeze mode.
Wow.
I couldn't move. The child kicked in. Shame kicked in. This is the domain of a woman, not a man. And I couldn't move. And it was such a lesson for me. Everybody else was expressing themselves, and I'm looking around thinking, fuck, why can't I do this? Fast forward 15 years, and boy, you put me in a dance room, I just love to shake it, man, now, you know? So that non-linear way of moving, of feeling, of thinking, it's definitely enriched my life beyond measure. Because I grew up in a masculine world where men stayed with men and women stayed with women, and everything that was linear was masculine, everything that was non-linear was feminine. Stay away from that. That's the world of the woman. Let them do their thing.
This is probably one of my favorite things to lead in men's work is I call it a non-linear practice. And we set up a room with and first of all, yoga mats that aren't lined up, and they're all kind of funny angles, which already for men is a little bit disturbing. And then the men, they put blindfolds on and they start on the ground and play really dramatic, feminine, dancey music. And one of the hardest things for men I see in this is they tend to get in pattern movements as they're dancing, we all, and so it's this constant encouragement to just free. And you see people literally go through this process you described in that 45-minute meditation of breaking through some rigid boundaries and then just feeling that freedom and flow of their body. And so I think it's a great thing for us to experience. I am just, as I'm saying this, I'm I should probably incorporate more of this into
me and my co-facilitators, when we used to do one-off retreats in the UK, we actually used to do the Osho dynamic meditation, and all the men would have blindfolds on.
It helps because we have it. It's that's hard when we see other men.
And we were supposed to be obviously navigating them, making sure they don't fall. But it was the funniest thing. It's like a comedy show, a free comedy show. It's so wonderful to see men break out that box. Now I'm laughing. It's not easy, is it? It's not easy. I guess my message for the men out there is, it's not wrong to be hyper masculine. But there's so much hidden potential in that other domain of non-linear spontaneity, emotive, sometimes chaotic, sometimes beautiful energy that you can't control. And this, I'll share a little bit about my path and transformation around that same time that I started the. Please, because I know that you've done a lot.
Is getting involved in the authentic relating movement and communication, and I'm now facilitator of this work, and I incorporate it a lot in my workshops and things like this. And when I reflect back, I have memories of sitting down in conflict with partners and them just being just say something, tell me how you feel. and like literally not being able to, like, my body was feeling something, and maybe there's something in my heart, but no, I couldn't get it to a word.
Me too.
Yeah. And I see it with men today, and that I work with quite frequently. And this gift of one of the fundamentals of what I teach is called like reveal your experience, which is like reveal your inner world to people in your life. And when I talk about this, I often talk about how I had this lone wolf kind of thing. I liked being mysterious. I'd be the guy that'd sneak out of the party and not tell anybody. And then I would also feel pain around, like, nobody gets me. Nobody understands me.
Yeah.
And I'd have a string of time where I would end up in like 3 to 6 month relationships. And a very common phrase I would hear in a breakup was like, as we deepen, they'd feel the real me. And they'd be like, whoa, like, this is different than what you presented. And it was like a revelation to me to realize that if I want people to see and know me, I have to share with them what's going on with me. Yeah. And so it's basically like the be vulnerable practice.
Yeah. Otherwise, how can they get you?
How can they? Expect them to read your mind.
Exactly.
And like, especially as a more stoic masculine, this is another thing. Certain people, some men, some women, they wear their emotions on their sleeve. Like, I'm dating someone now who I know exactly what she's feeling before she says a word. Like, she can't hide it. Yeah. I could be in major distress, discomfort, pain, and I'd be sitting here like this. It's a lot of men have this as an adaptation.
Yeah.
And so I know if I want people to know how I'm doing, I have to use my words. Yeah. I have to tell them. I had a period of time where people would, let's say, often romantic partners might do something, take an action that would cause me a lot of pain. And in the repair process, they would say something like, I didn't know that would impact you, or that would affect you. Yeah. Even my current partner has requested more from me. And so it's a continual effort to say ouch when something feels ouch, or indicate that something's happening in my emotional world that's not going to show on my face or my body language. Yeah.
Wonderful. We're getting into relationship, and I know it's your passion. It's, you believe it's one of the reasons you're on this planet. You love relationships and exploring them. Let's talk about the journey through cancer again. Yeah. How has that affected your relationship with Keith in this body, in this world?
Yeah. I love this question. I think it's given me a much different relationship to my body. Like, there's a lot more care and appreciation and connection. It's like I actually listen now. Even though I had been on the yoga,
you listen to the wisdom of your body,
wisdom of my body. If something's calling for help, or I'm eating poorly and my body's like, stop that. Where I even though I was in a yogic frame of mind for a while, there's still that kind of invincibility of youth and like being a mental person. And so there's more tuning in, there's more connection. Really gratitude. Like, a regular practice I do is just try to like, and again, I think we'd call these maybe more feminine practices, but like take a bath, or do things that are just like, thank you for supporting all of what I do in the world, like without asking for anything in a way. So I think it's brought us, my mind and body aren't actually separate, but we tend to project them as separate. Brought us closer.
And what about, talk to me about how your relationship to men has changed.
I think for me, that process was the biggest like rite of passage that I've undergone in my life. And, I imagine these are things you talk about in your men's work too, of how modern men have often just don't have a rite of passage anymore. Traditional societies had adolescents like go through strong rites of passage in these things. And a lot of boys in their 40s, 50s, and 60s these days, who have always had what they wanted, have never faced any significant health or relational challenges, so on and so forth. And so facing my own mortality and like really looking at what was important for me, and in my life, I think it really grew me up spiritually and in my masculinity.
That was your ultimate initiation.
So thus far, I imagine there'll be more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk to me about your relationship to women. How's that? How has that shifted?
Yeah. I think primarily, since that time, there's been a greater desire for primary partnership and like nesting and life and even family potentially that didn't exist before then. I think going through a cancer process and looking at mortality, it was just like, oh, what is really important? And what am I here to create and do? And what we were talking about before about that capacity to give and receive love.
Yeah.
I started to see like, oh, this is actually one of the greatest gifts I can experience in this life. So naturally the mind goes to intimate partnership where that can really be expressed and received, and potentially children, because it's like, what is the only actual lasting thing you can create in this world? And so I think there has been maybe a simplification of what I want and desire. And I think this is also what's led me more into men's work and relationship work and polarity teaching in a much healthier way. I think before this, I was, I talked about this at breakfast of like, women were more transactional and they kind of helped us get to what we wanted, but there was never a sense of really like meeting and partnership and care and love. And so, I think it's those desires are much stronger now. Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
So it sounds like cancer was an incredible teacher. What message would you give to a man or a woman out there that gets a similar diagnosis? What would you say to them? So obviously everybody's different, but what is your wisdom?
Yeah, I think primarily orienting to, we use the word disease for cancer, but orienting to it as a kind of gift, gift or part of you. One of the biggest tools I used during the process was the Ho'oponopono. I could never quite say that quite right, prayer, but like, I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And, I had this tumor in my chest and I spoke to the tumor like that, not in the medical society, even popular culture. It's like the tumor is something that needs to be removed and killed and beaten. And I actually oriented to it as it needs to be integrated. Yeah. These are my cells doing something weird. Yeah. And so that would be my message, like, orienting to a diagnosis with humbleness, with love, with care, as a messenger of something that, maybe you haven't been living your full potential, or maybe there's been aspects of your health or your relationships that can be changed, and a sense of orienting toward wholeness and inclusion of the disease, and also like with my journey of embracing the relationships. Don't do it alone. Like, I really don't think that's the best way. Like, inviting people into your life to share in that process and feel you and support you. So many people, that's how they are going to show their love for you, is even just small gifts and messages and things like this.
Beautiful.
Yeah. I had a wall in my house I was staying in at the time. I called it my wall of love. Right. And I had, 80, 100, 200. I don't remember what it was by the end, of just like, get well cards and cards with hearts on it and stuff. Nice. It was like I still have a picture of that I took, like, just sitting in my desk as a reminder of, like.
So you've received that instead of saying, oh, fuck it, I'm going to die anyway.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So just to kind of end on that, because I'm sure there's a few golden nuggets within your journey. So you're going through the 6 month chemo. You're calling on some of the tools that your learned in your previous yoga journey. You're doing the Ho'oponopono prayer. You've learned to receive a little bit more. I'm guessing you're meditating sometimes. Anything else that you did or didn't do that you feel benefited you and got you through it?
What comes immediately to mind actually were like simple things. When I look back, I committed to like this 1 to 2 mile loop walk that I would take every single day. And I remember, going from the midwinter to the summer on that walk, and knowing like this was like an accomplishment that I was doing, and still doing, to the best of my ability, like the daily task of like, cleaning and checking the mail and, doing things. So there was a desire to still stay really connected with rhythms and life. And it was almost like, of course, I'm going to get the power of the mind we talked about earlier. Like, I'm going to get through this. And so I want to keep orienting my life that way, knowing that in 6 months or 9 months or a year, life will be going back to normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about, let's go on to purpose for a moment.
Yeah.
Obviously you get a diagnosis like that. Your purpose is to get through it. Nothing, that's the purpose, right?
Correct.
Your purpose is to get through it, to get through the ordeal, to get through the initiation, and to somehow come out the other side. So that's your purpose. I guess the good news for you is it sounds like a big part of your purpose now is service. I know you want to serve and you want to coach.
Yeah.
So talk to me about transitioning from, Keith's just got through that. Wow.
Yeah.
Now, what tools have I got? You know what I mean? How can I serve humanity? Talk to me about that shift.
Yeah. I laughed actually because you and I both done David data work and I don't know if you've ever done like a purpose quad or where you kind of, this is something I also bring into my men's work where you start men kind of speaking their purpose to a small group of guys in a sentence. And then
you have to assess whether they're telling the truth or not.
You're like, I don't believe you. Yeah, I give that a 4 out of 4 out of 10.
It was unbelievably powerful.
It's powerful. And then eventually they like walk toward you and say their purpose and you're like, go back there and do it again. And eventually you distill your purpose to one word and you like scream it at the other men, and for me, it's service, and it continues to be. So the fact that like you named that, it just felt really seen and heard. And so that if I when I look back at my life, and what things have brought me the most joy and I felt the most alive, it's always been when I've been in service to others or to God and the divine. Yeah. This time, I right after we met in back 13 years ago, I spent the next 4 or 5 years more or less teaching yoga and meditation for free. Yeah. Or like $4 an hour after I became a senior teacher or whatever it was. It's kind of laughable now. And I would never have changed that for a moment. That was some of the best time of my life. I was serving the divine. I was also serving others, and I was just kind of a channel. Yeah, great. And so that if anything, the chemotherapy cancer journey has only reinforced that. And frankly, my challenge now actually is like that purpose is still really clear. Yeah. And what I met with in the kind of Western world is sometimes struggling finding the medium to do that. It's actually a little bit of a pain point for me where I have this impulse to serve and it's like, but how and where and with whom? Yeah, and so I'm still, there was some of our conversation this morning, some of the things that you've discovered in your own coaching and leadership that I'm also in process with right now. It's actually a deep pain when the desire to serve is not manifested, actually. Okay. So tell me about some of the things that you've got going on right now. Yeah, so got a few things. You named these in the beginning. I run a couple of businesses. Yep. One is Awaken Intimacy coaching, and so this is a space where I coach men, women, and couples, primarily men, in the fields of relationship, sexuality, intimacy. Beautiful. What are some of the common men? Some of the men. What is the commonality with what they bring to you? I would say probably one of the most common things, and probably the area I feel like a really niche where I help men, is where they have, for whatever reason, invited a kind of higher level woman into their life. And they realize that they don't necessarily have the skill or the aptitude to meet her, and they want to. And so I really work with these men to be better communicators, to find sovereignty, to like develop kind of classic masculine skills of containment and presence and these types of things. So that's a very common one. I also really enjoy working with couples and just working on relational dynamics and intimacy, communication, sexuality, things like this.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And then the other big area is a business I have called the Open Institute. I've co-founded with my business partner, Michaela. And this started off as a intersection of authentic relating meets sexuality. That was our initial impulse. And she and I both grew up in this authentic relating world where one of the foundations is welcome everything. And we discovered that that was true except for sexuality. So, you know, it was like one of these things, but people are a little shy, or like they don't invite things in. And so we've started to offer like spaces and containers for people to really normalize talking about attraction and desire and sexuality. So I have a whole series of workshops here. The latest offerings are in the space of temple arts. So giving people experiences of, what might have existed a long time ago, where temples were sort of sacred spaces where different kinds of ritualized activities occurred. I'm bringing a lot of the things from our Agama days and some of those really special ceremonies and containers that
honoring each other,
honoring masculine and feminine, honoring the divine. We actually we tell people like this isn't a typical workshop. It's like you're coming into church and you're meeting God. You know, we don't share each other's names. We often don't do sharing circles and things like this. And we're creating experiences for sort of Western modern people who may have not had the opportunity to live in Thailand for 5 years and live in a tantric yoga community or some other kind of monastery, to have a bit of a taste of something sacred and beautiful. Yeah.
And what do you see in the future?
What do I see in the future? I see...
What do you see in the future? What do you feel in the future? Where are you in the future?
Great question. There's a desire to grow both of these, to serve more people in communities, and to, I think, a vision that I have is, and one of the goals of this most recent offering of Temple is to create a regular community of people. It's one thing I really miss about our time in Thailand and Mexico, where there's like a kind of collective moving together toward a higher purpose. You might call that a cult, a healthy cult, so to speak, but a place where you have shared language and vision. And I hear today a lot of talk about community, but very little, but they end up kind of falling flat. And people in the Western world are so focused on their lives and their families and just getting by. And my highest desire would be to continue creating and offering experiences and support for people who, desire something cohesive and connected over time. Yeah.
Wonderful vision.
Yeah.
In Boulder?
I would say in Colorado. Boulder is definitely home base for now. I was sharing with you earlier that being really focused on relational arts, right? It requires being in one place to develop and sustain like intimacy and friendships and loverships. And as you can see, we're out the window here. We're very close to beautiful mountains and space. And so ideally, I
want to live here.
Yeah.
Your job is to find me a wife.
Okay. I can help. Yeah. There's a lot of incredible women in my community looking for men like you, Craig.
I imagine. I'll stay away from them until January.
Yeah, right.
We'll talk about that on your podcast.
Yeah, right.
Wow. Okay. Keith, you're a shining example of transformation, humbleness, learning, potentializing, and hopefully, as you step into your future, actualizing. Just before we go into work, our viewers can find more about your work. Again, this journey that you went through with cancer, why are you grateful? Because I know people that have got over cancer, whatever that means.
Yeah.
And you talk to them, it's like, am I grateful for it? What?
Wow.
Are you fucking serious? I never, ever, ever want to go through that again. And it was the fucking hardest time of my life. And I wish it never happened.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
How can you look back with wisdom and say thank you?
Yeah. I do almost every day. And it has a lot to do with, I almost feel like there's a second lease on life, so to speak. Like, wow, this is borrowed time in some way. I mean, it's all borrowed time, but it's like the real realization that this is borrowed time. And I think it, for me, similar to that man I mentioned I met that had the stroke earlier, I was living a very good life, but there were just certain things and orientations that I had in my mind and in my life that now I can see were sort of foolish. And so I think this sense of being humbled and more focused on what really matters and like my values and my some of the simplicities of daily life. I find it's funny when you asked me the question a few minutes ago about what do you see in the future? Like, I know this is an important aspect of our masculine existence and creating and developing and stuff, but it's a little less like, I don't quite have that in the sense, like if you ask me like 5-year, 10-year plan, I'd be like, I'll be happy if I'm alive in 5 or 10 years, in some sense. And I'm going to make plans as if I am, of course. But there's a little less attachment to it. My life, I want my life to be...
That's the key word, isn't it?
Yeah. I want my life to be satisfying right now. I had this is a little tangent, but I did have at that yoga school in Thailand, I had a really severe electric shock accident that also almost took my life. And I spent 3 days in the hospital after it. And like a week later, I was just teaching yoga again, really severely in a lot of pain. And I remember that moment too of saying, hey, most people would have a near-death experience like this and drastically change their lives and maybe move to Thailand and go to a yoga community. And I was already there. And that was really reinforcing in my system. And that's how I continue to live. Of course, there are things, I call them the technicalities of living that we just have to deal with all the time. And they exist. But am I fundamentally living how I want to be? And it's less about like, a lot of people think about where they're living and if they're in a relationship or not. And for me, it's like just more fundamental than that. It's like, do I wake up and meet the day with joy?
How do I feel on a daily basis?
And maybe this is a little tangent, but there's this man, Daniel Schmachtenberger, he's a complex systems guy. I love listening to him talk on YouTube. And recently I heard an interview where they're talking a lot about AI. And they're like, conceivably, if developments in AI, like a lot of the things you and I everyone spends their time on a daily basis might go away. Like there's a lot of just routine, tedious things that robots and AI could do. How will we spend our time?
I remember Satguru speaking about that as well. How AI is giving us an opportunity to just be.
Yeah,
but will that be the case?
Well, it's scary, right? I think because many, for better or worse, people get really caught up in just the to-dos. And
of course,
I think his answer was something like, I would want people to spend more time in the relational arts. I don't think that was his exact words. That's the word I'm using now, relational art, because something AI, at least doesn't seem to have is the ability to actually experience and to have shared experience. And as I mentioned at breakfast earlier, I've been getting involved in hospice volunteering recently and talking to people and listening to things of people who are close to people dying a lot and them sharing like nobody talks about the projects they didn't finish or the dollar amount they didn't quite get to in their bank account. They talk about their shared experiences with other human beings and the people they loved and that have loved them. And so that's a reminder for me of more so than like how much money am I making today or is this project complete? It's like, what is the health of my relational field actually?
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So we cut back on doing through the use of AI. And then in theory, we can relate more.
Yeah.
Beautiful way to look at it, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
And thanks for sharing your amazing journey, Keith. I look forward to hanging out with you a little bit more. I'm in Denver for a few more days and I'm looking forward to going on a hike with you and jumping on your podcast.
Yeah, this is great. And thank you for this opportunity. Such a joy to spend time with you. And I've obviously been following you and just such a big fan of what you're doing and the message that you are putting out in the world. So thank you.
Thank you. I received that. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And where can my audience find out about you and your work, Keith?
Yeah. Probably the easiest place is my website, awakenintimacy.com.
Got it.
Yeah.
Great. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I hope you've been inspired by Keith's story. And I will see you on the next episode of the Dare to Be Different podcast.